When people say that Me Too went too far, they aren't talking about false allegations. It's about protecting bad men from consequences. E. Jean Carroll fought back and won. Does she have any wisdom for the Epstein victims? I'm Amanda Marcotte. Welcome to Standing Room Only. Speaker of the House Mike Johnson is lying. Yes, I know. That's like saying water is wet. But while this self-proclaimed beacon of Christian morality is always lying,
bless those who persecute you. I'm getting a lot of practice in that right now.
This time it's even more depraved than usual. He's trying to silence the victims of Jeffrey Epstein and his alleged fellow abusers. Worse, Mike is doing this to protect President Donald Trump. Even though a civil jury in New York already found that Trump attacked journalist E. Jean Carroll in a department store dressing room. And I won't beat around the bush. Our guest for Pass the Mic today is E. Jean Carroll. Mike has already gone to great lengths to make sure that the FBI's extensive files on Epstein never see the light of day. In July, Johnson started the House's summer recess early to avoid Democrats bringing up a bill that would release the Epstein files. And we know why Mike is so worried. Epstein called Trump his closest friend, and we know that Trump is reportedly in the files. House Democrats have already leaked a birthday card that Trump reportedly wrote to his longtime buddy, which says stuff like, "We have certain things in common, Jeffrey, and may every day be another wonderful secret." There's more. During Attorney General Pam Bondi's recent Senate hearing, she was asked about gross photos reportedly in the files. Her response was very telling.
There's been public reporting that Jeffrey Epstein showed people photos of President Trump with half-naked young women. Have you seen any such thing?
You know, Senator Whitehouse, you sit here and make salacious remarks, once again trying to slander President Trump left and right, when you're the one who was taking money from one of Epstein's closest confidants, blah, 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 blah.
Senator Whitehouse actually, his staff emailed me and was like, "No, that's a lie. We did not have any donation from that guy." Mike's new excuse for hiding the files? The government shutdown. He's keeping Congress closed and refusing to seat Representative Adelita Grijalva, who is a newly elected Democrat from Arizona. She also happens to be the deciding vote on releasing the files. And Mike keeps falsely blaming the shutdown.
She won her election after the House was out of session. So we've not had a full session. She deserves to have all the pomp and circumstance that everybody else does.
Doesn't your resistance to not swear her in add fuel to the fire that this is about the Epstein files?
No. I am anxious to administer the oath to her
As
soon as you guys vote to open the government.
This is the longest time it's taken for someone to be sworn in, and it all happens to coincide with the fact that she's going to be the deciding vote on the discharge petition.
I know why you're upset.
I'm following the Pelosi precedent, by the way, when my dear friend from Louisiana, Julia Letlow, was elected to fill the seat of her deceased husband because of COVID. Nancy Pelosi took 25 days to swear her in. By the way,
are you saying? Let me stop you. Are you saying that Nancy Pelosi refused to swear her in earlier?
No, I'm saying that's my very point. Is this is the normal
Because my understanding
process.
is that was the date that actually the representative-elect Letlow at the time requested. She had obviously her.
Okay, here's some more examples. Okay.
No, but wait a minute. You mentioned the Pelosi precedent, but Pelosi didn't delay that.
Let me give you more than Pelosi precedent. Okay.
And what about the Johnson precedent? Because you swore in two Republicans the day after their election.
I mean, get on ABC for digging into him on this. I think I know why his voice is so triggering for me, because I grew up in the Bible Belt, and he is just like every creepy Baptist who lectures you about how as if you were the stupidest person alive about how Jesus walked with dinosaurs. I hate him so much. We know this is a lie because the Senate is still in session and they are still holding votes. There is nothing keeping Mike Johnson from reopening the House, except for the Epstein files. He wants to keep Trump happy, even if it means shutting down the government, even if it means the state of Arizona is suing Congress. We still don't know everything that's in the Epstein files, but we do know one thing. Trump is scared of the truth getting out. Mike Johnson knows that Trump is not innocent. This has been adjudicated twice by civil courts. Both juries found that E. Jean was telling the truth when she said that Trump attacked her in a department store dressing room. Plus, Trump is on tape bragging about how he does this all the time to women. Mike's behavior is part of a larger backlash to the Me Too movement, and it goes well beyond Capitol Hill. A lot of MAGA influencers and even some centrists have taken to saying that Me Too went too far in telling the truth about abusive men.
I believe that the Me Too movement has swung way too far, and a lot of men that I know are deeply concerned.
There's the Harvey Weinsteins of the world. There's the people that are absolutely monsters, right? There's those people. But then there's people that just got caught up in the wave of outrage.
And this momentum starts, but we just overcorrect everything to the point of completely bastardizing the movements.
Is everything a life sentence? Louis is a horrible person forever?
After looking over this case, I've concluded that Harvey Weinstein was wrongfully convicted and was basically just hung on the Me Too thing. Like, you sleep with him, and then afterwards, your career doesn't take off. And so I feel these women are trying to rinse themselves of their sins.
Wow. Rinse themselves. Wow. Candace is calling Harvey, of all people, the real victim here. Here's the ugly truth. The backlash to Me Too was never about male innocence. It's about protecting those who are likely guilty. It's about reasserting the male privilege to abuse women and even children without facing consequences. Remember, Epstein was only charged in 2019 because of the Me Too movement. It had been 11 years since his infamous sweetheart deal given to him by Republican U.S. Attorney Alex Acosta. The first time around, Epstein barely served any time, and then he went straight back to his Playboy lifestyle. So yeah, the backlash against Me Too isn't about innocence. It's about making sure that abusers never face consequences. The men dangled out as victims of Me Too are rarely, if ever, the targets of false accusations. Actually, I asked ChatGPT to give me a list of men who were exonerated, and every single one it came up with, they had not been. Just because a lot of people say it online doesn't make it true, ChatGPT. So yeah, there are situations like with actor Kevin Spacey where there wasn't enough evidence to convict in court. But he was also accused by over a dozen people, so it's hardly an exoneration. Some people have defended comedians Louis C.K. and Aziz Ansari, who were both accused of pretty creepy behavior. But nobody's actually saying that the women weren't telling the truth. They're just debating whether their behavior was bad enough to cross some kind of line. And then there's Tara Reid, who accused Joe Biden of assault. But her story swiftly fell apart, and Biden emerged unscathed. The whole thing was an example of how false allegations are actually pretty hard to pull off because they tend to collapse under scrutiny. And that's why I'm so excited to speak to E. Jean Carroll for Pass the Mic. There's so much talk about false allegations, but in truth, most of them are aimed at the victims. E. Jean was called crazy and a liar just for telling her story.
A crazy lady is accusing Trump of raping her 23 years ago.
Can we all agree that E. Jean Carroll, the person who has just won a defamation suit against him, is absolutely unbearable? This woman appeared to be clinically insane.
He talks about the fact that E. Jean Carroll is a kooky lady. Because guess what? She's a super kooky lady.
And this has nothing to do with settling any kind of grievance. This has to do with taking all the ready cash that Donald Trump might have.
Matt Schlapp has also been accused.
He can have any woman on the world. And I'm supposed to believe at 2 p.m. in a Tiffany's store, he walks in and rapes E. Jean Carroll, who is not exactly a supermodel.
I've never seen somebody so happy to have allegedly been raped. She is giggling on every single show about her alleged rape and how people think rape is sexy, and she didn't really think she was raped. And yeah, you know, I have all my money and I'm going to take Rachel Maddow to France and we're going to work on women's rights, which basically, as far as I can tell, means just the ability to kill your unborn child.
Every fucking rape myth. That it only happens to supermodels, that if you're kooky or it didn't happen to you, that if you ever have a good day in your life again, that it couldn't happen to you. I mean, what do they want? Anyway. Twice, E. Jean took Trump to court. Both times, she won. And let's face it, E. Jean's critics never really thought she was lying. They were mad that she told the truth. They just want victims to shut up. And they want to let men get away with abuse. That's the message that Trump, Pam Bondi, and Mike Johnson are sending to victims. There's no use in speaking out because you will never see justice.
Attorney General Bondi, why did you publicly claim to have the Epstein client list waiting for your review and then produce nothing relevant to that claim?
Oh, I've never seen the Epstein evidence. It wasn't in my lane.
I understand that we were subpoenaed to give files, and I understand we've given thousands of pages of files. And I know that no matter what you do, it's going to keep going. I think we should talk about the greatness of our country and the success that we're having. That's what we should be talking about, not the Epstein hoax.
It was never about anything else. I'd like to welcome E. Jean Carroll to Standing Room Only. She is the author of Not My Type and the star of an upcoming documentary. Welcome to Standing Room Only, E. Jean.
Thank you, Amanda. Love the red lipstick.
Thank you so much. So yeah, I want to start because we were going over a bunch of clips of all the foul and ugly things that people said about you in the run-up to and during your two trials, your two lawsuits against Donald Trump. And now you've got this documentary coming out. Are you worried about that sort of stuff coming back? How does that make you feel?
Yeah, I'm not worried. I'm worried about you. I am worried about everybody in this country. I am worried about my neighbors. I'm not worried about myself. I know what it's like. But other people don't know what's coming. So I am worried about you, Amanda. Of course, many people worry about you, Amanda, because you've gotten in trouble a lot of times.
Making trouble is kind of what I like to do.
I know.
So it sounds like you were looking up on me, looking into me.
Yes. Well, I've always known about you. I mean, I didn't need to do much looking up.
Well, thank you. I did appreciate that you mentioned my reporting on you in your book. So that made me feel really good. I was glad that it meant something to you that I was defending you in my writing.
Yes, and a very strong, powerful defense. Thank you.
So when you say you're worried about the rest of the country, like having dealt so much with Donald Trump personally over the years, what have you learned from that makes you worried about the rest of us?
Well, I was sort of the canary in the coal mine. When we ran into each other in front of Bergdorf's, it was light and funny. Remember, back in the day, we thought Donald Trump was sort of a clown. And we were entertained by him. He was on TV. We were entertained. And in a moment, it turned dark. Mm-hmm. And the fight happened. That's exactly what went on. What's going on in America right now. The first term, we thought he was kind of funny, sort of a clown. He's, buffoon, and we tossed him out of office. Now he's back in, and he's pulling the government apart at the seams. So he's doing to the rest of the country what he did to me in Bergdorf's.
Yeah. What does it feel like to be kind of a living metaphor for this situation?
I feel bad for the country. I can take it. I'm an old lady. Old ladies can take an enormous amount of shit. Because we don't have anything to lose. It's young women like you and young men, with their futures in front of them. I feel, Jesus Christ, I feel really bad. Feeding their kids, getting some education, getting health insurance. I mean, really, so of course I feel bad for people.
So I read your book and I thought it was really good and profound. And what really struck me was how much work you went through for these trials. You had to do the witness prep. You had to change the way you looked. You had to change the way you talk and all these things. Right. Was it worth it? I just want to know.
Sure. I would have gone through. It was totally and completely worth it. Completely worth it. What they decided, what my attorney, the great Robbie Kaplan, the probably legal genius of her generation, her thing was let E. Jean be E. Jean on the stand, but just buttoned up a little bit, because you see how I am in real life. I mean, I'm sitting on a rubber ball, I'm bouncing, you know. This is not going to go over well with a jury. The jury, Amanda, they just want the facts. That's all they want. They just want to, and they want to go home, and they want to rest, they want to feed their kids, see their partners. They don't want somebody on there who's telling a story and, oh, remember this thing when I was in Elaine's, and oh, I met this and that. No. So what they had to do was just get me, you know, zipped up. And that took months of preparation to teach me. They just want the facts. You and I are journalists. We like to tell a story, right? We like to tell a story. The story's filled with facts, but the lawyers would not sit still for that. I mean, so it was hard. It's hard. It's hard.
You're like, can't we have a little color in this story?
Yeah, yeah. Well, the color did slip out when Joe Tacopina did his cross-examination, and Alina Habba Esquire did her cross-examination, and then I couldn't help myself. I mean, I could not help myself. Alina Habba Esquire sitting there. She's gorgeous. She's confident. You know, she's got cheekbones like the evil witch, and it was like she was the witch offering the apple to Snow White.
For viewers and listeners who have not read Eugeni's book, it's well worth it. Just the descriptions of Trump's lawyers alone.
Oh my God! And if you notice, I mentioned everything that everybody wore.
Yes, you do.
And you know why? Because in any sexual assault case, the only thing people talk about is what the woman has on.
Yeah.
What she had on when she was assaulted. What she's wearing now. Does she look fuckable? You know, that was whole thing. It's all about. So by God, this time I just said what every single person in the courtroom had on, including the judge. Judge Lewis A. Kaplan.
So, changing gears, Trump really doesn't want the Epstein files to come out, and Republicans are helping him cover them up. And this really touches on your situation. So what do you make of everything that's been happening?
Well, it relates to my situation in that 24 women have come forward and accused Donald Trump of sexual abuse, sexual assault, general assault. 24 women. Some say it's more than that. Some say it's way more than 24. Some say it's 48 women. And he and Epstein were like 9 and 10. They used women to keep score. They really don't care about women in this country. They just really do not care about women. Don't care. And poor Mike Johnson. When is he ever going to let the House come back? When is he going to do it? Because if he does, he's in deep, deep shit. Right?
You bring up the women the other women who have accused Trump, and I was really struck in your book about how you use their names as a mantra.
Yes.
How often do you think about all those other women these days?
Oh, I think of them every day. Yeah, because some of them are faring very well. Natasha Stoyanov has got a bestseller, and she's brilliant. And some of them are not doing well. He just laid them flat. Just laid them flat. Divorces have occurred, financial problems, because once a woman or anybody has been denigrated by the President of the United States and called a liar and, you know, horrible things he would say about everybody who came forward, some people take that very to heart. You know, they take it to heart, or their families take it to heart, or their bosses take it to heart, and they're fired, and they can't. You know, I have one of the great and most important accusers cannot get a job. no, it's not good. And look, and you know why everybody's so enchanted with the Epstein victims? Because they're quiet. I mean, until the other day.
Yeah.
The Epstein victims were girls. The Trump accusers are all women with careers, right? And nobody believes the Trump accusers, but everybody believes the Epstein accusers. So the difference is one is a woman and one is a child. One has a career, one is trying to support her family, one has a mind of her own, and the other ones are young. So that's another difference that drives me crazy. Nobody doubts the Epstein survivors. Everybody doubts the Trump accusers. Amanda, can you explain why that is?
Well, and also he's still alive and Epstein is dead, and I think that makes it a little bit easier that there's nobody.
Okay.
I think that's another factor in this, is like no one cares what happens to Jeffrey Epstein because he's already dead.
You know, that's interesting because he's so much in the news, I forgot that he was dead.
Yeah, he keeps haunting Donald Trump, that's for sure.
In the trial, we were going to use, Michael Wolff has many tapes, many hours, scores of hours of tapes with Epstein, and he does have Epstein on the phone telling a friend that he met up with Trump very soon after the Bergdorf incident, and Trump regaled him with the, quote, torrid details. Now, we were going to call Michael Wolff to the stand and play these tapes, but Robbie Kaplan decided not to. It was so inflammatory. She didn't think the judge would ever permit it, and she just, let alone the hearsay would have been very difficult to overcome. But, you know, Epstein became very much a part of our case, whether to use those tapes or not. So that was interesting. We didn't do it. So, you know, I don't know what would have happened if we had. It's hard to say.
Well, I mean, you won, so it's hard to argue with the results.
We won, yeah.
And that brings me to my last question, which is, I think a lot of people are feeling really down right now. I think that there's a lot of hopelessness right now, but your story, you won twice. And I want to ask, like, what can people learn from your experiences? Like, what would you like people to take away from all this?
Well, Amanda, if one old lady, 82 fucking years old, can beat Trump, anybody can beat Trump. So you see, I'm not wearing a really Celtic necklace, but I am wearing paper clips. These are a sign. These were used in the Second World War to denote resistance to the Nazis. A paperclip holds things together. A paperclip can pick locks. A paperclip can open handcuffs. A paperclip, if you straighten it out, can be a lethal weapon. A paperclip has become a signal to other people that we resist Trump, because right now, I think more people dislike Trump than like him. I think it's tipped. Now, this is the one way we can show that. Otherwise, nobody knows because everybody's afraid to speak. Never saw such a bunch of fraidy cats. You know, never saw such fraidy cats. But this is the one thing people can do to show they have resistance to Trump, and I would like your listeners and viewers to know, if you resist Trump, wear this. We have to stop showing each other there are more of us than there are of them. So paperclips, people.
Awesome, that's perfect. Great way to end this. Thank you so much for joining us on Standing Room Only, Eugene. It's been a delight.
Well, Amanda, thank you. I hope to get together again sometime.
And thank you guys for watching. And don't forget to like and subscribe. It really helps us out. And don't forget to stick around for Encore. The song of the week is really on point.
Hey
folks, coming to you from Latchkey in Philadelphia. That's my partner's record store. We just finished up with a Tame Impala listening party. Really great album. Love it a lot. But while you should listen to the new Tame Impala album, I want to say that the song recommendation of the week is something a little older. It is Goodbye Earl by the Dixie Chicks. You have probably heard this song. If you haven't, you should listen to the Dixie Chicks. They're a great country western band. They got really kind of famous among liberal circles after they spoke out against the Iraq War and got canceled by a bunch of Republicans. That was a long time ago, but I was a fan before that happened. And it was in part because of songs like Goodbye Earl, which is just like a really great kind of bluegrass influenced country western tune. The reason I want to talk about it though tonight is that it was a song that friends of mine used to sing at this karaoke I used to go to in the early aughts. And they would sing this song, and a bunch of men who were very conservative men would always get really mad, and they would come over to the table when my friends were singing Goodbye Earl, which is a song about two women killing a domestic abuser. And they would say, "Are you and your friends man-haters?" And I would say, "No, but I do hate men who beat women." You can see to this day this conflation of being against men who are abusive to women and all men. And I always feel that a man who thinks that there is a conflation between the two is telling on himself. So go back, check out Goodbye Earl, listen to the Dixie Chicks. They're a great band. They're great instrumentalists, great singer. But also, that's a lesson that I will never forget. If you want more Standing Room Only episodes, please hit the subscribe button on YouTube. Standing Room Only started as a newsletter, and it's free to read. Click the link to subscribe. I love tips. These political battles are playing out in our local communities, your family, your school, your neighborhood. If you have a story, go ahead and drop me a line, leave it in comments, and don't forget to subscribe.